Words.
So, yeah, I just now I wish I should have brought my, something told me bring my jacket, but I didn't do that. I just hope I don't get selected. But then again, my left. Oh,
You say nothing. Jinx myself.
I said, well, with my left hand. So I'm just like, yeah, I hope not, but you know, it's just like when I got the divorce, the first time I got divorced, I said, never, ever. So you guys never, because what ended up happening, getting married again. Then when I got divorced in 2009, I said, I'm fine for now, but I'm open to it at best. And so far, I've got good love since 2009.
I made 9 years of the same day. And this is my second, and I've been really different things so long. So I think I did right.
Okay, you did.
Meaner than hell, but I'm right.
That's the important thing.
All right, you all did a great job with being a jury buddy to somebody. So I see everybody made it back. So remember my instructions. If you're not in the box or on this first row, I'll need you to raise your card and stand before speaking. That way everyone can hear you. And you may end up seeing people coming in and out of the courtroom. Sometimes there are people who are here who want to view a jury trial. Sometimes we have law students who are coming in and they are viewing proceedings. You may see people coming from this door. If people are coming from that door, they're here for me to sign documents maybe. But most importantly, when you see people coming from this door, it has absolutely nothing to do with this trial. When you see people coming from that door, they didn't read the sign on the outside of the door that says, we're in jury trial, don't come through this door. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to the state. The state will ask you some questions, and then after they finish, the defense will have a chance to ask you some questions. So hopefully everybody is still focused. All right, state.
Thank you, Judge. First off, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, at any time you guys cannot hear me, please don't be afraid to say it, okay? So my name is Daniel Escobar. I, along with my partner, MC Shaw, work in the Bexar County DA's office. And we represent the state of Texas. So what we're here for today is jury selection. What dire really depends on if you want to have the brand package. Now, there are 3 goals to board us. First, I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about the law. I want to inform you guys a little bit about what you could potentially experience in the next few days. Second, I want to know a little bit about you. Okay, that means that even if you had the phobia when you were a little kid being called on in class, I'm so sorry, but that's probably going to end up happening. Because I want to ask you guys questions and find out about your opinion. There are no wrong answers. I'm not looking for a specific thing. I just want to know more about you. The third goal is for us to pick a fair and impartial trial, a fair and impartial jury for both the state and the defense. Okay. Now, whenever I call on you, I might point at you, sir, in the Yellowstone shirt. If you can hold up your card and stand up, stop it. But I'll say juror number 50. That's just so that the court reporter can take down who I'm talking to, and so that it's clear on the record. You can sit down, sir. Thank you. We really need to talk loudly. And we can't talk over each other, okay? So, the very first thing I wanted to get into is the burden of proof. The burden of proof in criminal cases is beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, as the judge mentioned, covered, we can't give you a definition of what that means. Make our job easier, but we can't. I can, however, tell you what it's not. It's not 100%. It's not beyond all possible doubt. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt. there are a few questions that you need to ask yourself. One, is the doubt you have reasonable? Okay, we can have a ton of doubts about things, but not all of them are reasonable. Two, is it something that goes to an element of the case? And I'll explain that. But it has to be something specific about an element. Now, I just said elements. What I mean by that is there are certain things that the state has to prove in this case. If we have not proven those things to you beyond a reasonable doubt, we have not done our job. So, just gonna list off the elements. I'll go over them in more detail. But on or about, I have to give you guys the date. Can't do that, didn't do my job. In Bexar County, Texas, this had to have happened in the county. If it happened in Travis County, it should be in the Travis County courthouse, not here. The defendant, someone's gonna have to identify Mr. Jones. Fair enough so far. Intentionally and knowingly. I'll talk about that in a second. Possess. I have possession of a controlled substance, and its weight had to add up between 4 grams and 200 grams. Okay? Those are the elements. If you have a doubt that's not going towards any of those, it doesn't matter. It's not something that need concern you. If one of the officers says that someone was wearing a pink shirt, it actually was blue, guess what? Doesn't go to an element, so it doesn't matter. So let's get into it. Intentionally and knowingly. Those are what we call mental states. So I'm gonna start calling on people, so I'm so sorry. But well, there's one example that I usually like to use. Juror number 3. Okay. So you don't need to answer, you're in the front row, you're welcome. So I'm gonna just ask some questions after this, but give me a second to do it. I am going to pick up that legal pad. But you see what I did? You think I intentionally did that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how do you know?
Because for you to be in the court, I have to assume you're sane and you have bodily control.
Okay, that's fair. I do think I'm saying, but trust me, you don't want that, probably not. Juror number 4. How do you know I intentionally did that? You said. Okay, and juror number 1, what else did I do? Right, there you go. That doesn't always happen. We don't act like that or else we'd be super weird. But typically, that's how you can tell someone intentionally did it. I voiced what I was gonna do and I did it. I knew what was gonna happen and I followed through. So not to confuse things, but now. Juror number, what's your number, man? Juror number 6. Thank you. I'm picking up this legal pad. Okay. Did you see one? What else did I do when I picked up that pad? I carried an object that was on top of it. Did I say I was going to pick up that object? Did I directly pick up the object? Okay. But did I knowingly pick up the object? Okay. So I intended to do the action and I knew what the consequences were. I knowingly did it. See what I mean? So that's part of the mental state because we oftentimes may not get into exactly what someone was thinking. And that is super weird. And the defendant has a Fifth Amendment right to not testify. So that's something that he has the option to not do. So there are other ways that we get there to knowing if he did intentionally or knowingly. Fair so far? Yeah. So now let's go into possession. So possession in the state of Texas, it's going to be the care, custody, control, or management. Care, custody, control, management. Juror number, man, what's your juror number? Juror number 8. Sorry, guys. I gotta help out down here where I can. So I said care, custody, control, management. What's one weird thing that I did not say? Anyone? Okay, sorry for calling you out. Again, that phobia kicks in sometimes. Is there anyone who thinks, what did Daniel not say during all of that? Care, custody, control, management.
Intent.
Well, not intent. 36,
Possession.
well, possession, but all those words define possession. That's all getting back to possession. One thing I want you guys to think of, ownership. I never said yet. Thank you so much. But ownership. I never said ownership in that. So possession in the state of Texas, you don't need to prove someone owns something. Just need to prove care, custody, control, management. Fair so far? So let's take this example. This is juror number 12. What's this?
That's a cell phone.
Whose cell phone is it?
I don't know yet.
Doesn't know yet. Anybody beg to differ? No? All right, bunch of people saying no. What if I did this? Do I own it?
I don't know yet.
Am I possessing it?
Yes.
Is there anyone here who would disagree with juror number 12? You can sit down, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone here who would disagree with juror number 12? That you guys had no info on if I own that cell phone. I just grabbed one from your desk. But now I have possession of it. It's on my person. I can directly manipulate it. I can throw it across the room. I can stomp on it if I want to. It is my cell phone. I'm allowed to do that. But I have all those options. Now, you saw us sitting over here while the judge was talking this morning and right before I got up. Juror number, man, what's your juror number? 68. Thank you, man. So there's all these items over here, right? On the desk. Anyone disagreeing with her? There's a bunch of items, computers, stuff like that. Do you know if I own any of those items?
I don't know. If you own them, own them.
Right. I was sitting in that chair though, right?
Right.
Where they're all right in front of me.
If you was right there.
Okay. So would you think I have possession of these items? I'm not saying, they're not on my person. I'm not near them right now, but do I possess them? Care, custody, control, or manage? Juror number 67. Can I go, or could you go up and just take these files from me?
Could be, but I'd be wrong.
Right. Because I have possession of them and you're taking possession, right? So even though I'm not near the item, is there anyone who would say I don't have possession of the item? It's a weird thing just to kind of get over. I know it's me being weird about possessing and ownership and all that stuff. Sir, what's your juror number? Juror number 14.
Yes, sir.
Do you think I possess those items?
No, sir, it's not defined.
Okay.
Possession is 9/10 of the law. If you have it on your person, then you possess it. If you have it in your car, and you're traveling with somewhere, it's always been my understanding, you possess it.
Okay. Can you repeat that last part, sir?
If you have it in your car, you place it in your car, you're driving somewhere with it, your fingerprints are on it, that's possession.
Is there anyone here who would disagree with that? Okay. Now, juror number 15.
I wasn't there.
So,
Oh, wait a minute. I guess I'm supposed to stand.
thank you. So what he was saying is, and I like the things you brought up, is that it was in the car. You would imagine that it would be possessed. Do you disagree with that?
I'm still trying to deal with the term possession. So he says 9 cents.
9/10 of the law.
Yeah, got that part. And then you hear it enough
Very
on
reason.
TV and my age is showing, but I can carry this card around. It's mine. I mean, I'm possessing it, but if somebody else snatched it out of my hand, they got it. I don't have it no more, but is it possession? I don't know.
Well, would they now have possessed?
But they have my 15 and I'll be bummed, but that means I can leave. But anyway,
But I like how you said that. Someone can take it and now they have possession, right?
Yeah.
Is there anyone that would disagree with that? I would say, once you take an item, you don't possess. Anyone? So, and ma'am, you can sit down.
thank you. Thank you.
Juror number.
I don't know you picking on me.
Yeah. So. Do you own, do you drive a vehicle with other people? Like, do you share? You drive, what do you share?
A friend that I work with.
Okay. So if he sometimes put these items in the car,
Does, and they're not my possession.
they're not yours. You don't own them. But let's say if one of us were to look in and you're sitting there and there's, I don't know, coffee cup. You have care, custody, control, management at that point. Would you agree? And would we still say you possess the item?
Sorry, is there an objection?
Well, let him finish that question.
Okay,
Would you-
and I'm sorry, Daniel, if you could, because as you know, because you wear glasses, people wear glasses. They need to see the person who's speaking, otherwise they can't hear.
Sorry about that, Judge. I'll keep that in mind.
It's okay, and so that the court reporter can hear.
So would you still say that you possess that mark? Okay, is there anyone here who would disagree with that? That the friend is the one that put the mug in there, but she's the one driving the car. And look in and say, "There's that mug right there." Is there anyone here who would say she doesn't possess it? Please raise your card. Think about it for a second.
We have an objection.
Judge, I'm gonna object. That is not the definition of possession.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the law is what you will receive from the court. Does everyone understand?
Mhm.
All right, you may continue.
So let's clarify that. Now. So would you be able to pick up that mug if you were driving that car?
Yes,
Okay, so you have the ability to manipulate it. Right?
yes, illegally, yes.
Okay. Is there anyone here, and I saw a couple cards get raised, is there anyone here who would disagree with that?
Again, Judge, I'm gonna object. That is not the definition of, the ability to do something is not possession. It's whether she did or not pick it up.
So that objection will be overruled because the court doesn't believe that was the question that was asked, whether or not it was possession. You may ask your question.
Is there anyone here who would disagree with that? Please raise your cards.
Hold on, can I have a quick question? So basically, she's saying that she can move it around.
You can't sit down, sorry about that. Keep forgetting about that.
So
Everyone,
Miss
please
19.
remember to stand if you're not
Oh,
on
sorry.
those three rules.
Sorry. So Miss 19 said that she has a mug in the car, so she can move it around.
Right.
But it belongs to her friend that she's riding it.
Right,
So they're basically asking, is hers or her possession or consider ownership?
is it in her possession versus ownership?
I would say a possession because it was in her vehicle and she's moving it around, but even though it's not hers technically.
You have an objection.
Yes, one is the commitment question to that.
All right, with regards to commitment questions, that will be sustained. All right, thank you.
All right, so let's move on.
To ask.
So the other portion of it was the illegal narcotic. Okay, so there's a long list of the PG1 penalty ones, huge list. I don't have time to list them all. Some of them that you recognize: heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, just drugs of that. Okay, so that's what we mean by when you say PG1. Now when we go to the amount. 4 grams and 200, that's where we're dealing with. Okay. So, part of that, your number. Sir, what's your grade? 20, sorry about that. You know how much 4 grams are? You can do a little, you can go. You speak up, sir.
I've never seen 4 grams of drugs, so I don't know what,
4 grams of anything.
or, well, yeah, I mean, 4 grams of. Like salt or sugar.
Okay, salt, sugar. Is there anyone here who's ever had experience? You can sit down. Sorry. Is there anyone here who's ever had experience with like measurements like that? 4 grams. They're number 60.
I have, I mean, I weigh my food when I eat.
Okay.
4 grams is very little.
What about 200 grams?
That's a lot.
Right, compared to 200.
That's a big jump.
And you can sit down, sir. Juror number 53.
Yes, I've weighed out drugs.
Okay, and that's a wide range. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Okay, and do you think part of it is if we were to say 4 grams, is that something that you think the state should spend its time on versus something versus 200? Which do you think you would want us to focus on?
It's within the range of what the law defines. It's what you should be pursuing.
Thank you. You take a seat. Is there anyone who would say, 4 grams, it's not a lot? You're wasting your time. Is there anyone here with that opinion? Please raise your card.
Oh,
Sorry.
dang it. No, well, the question with that one, when you asked about the 15, the 4 grams, is it how many times that person had the 4 grams? Or is it multiple times? Or are we talking about 4 grams and maybe the first time or versus. That's what.
Oh, okay, so the concern is, and I think you're getting more towards history.
No, it's just that, I mean, you're saying 4 grams, I mean, 4 grams is a little smidgen, but then it comes into question, well, does the person been convicted or, I'm sorry, the wrong word, maybe. Is it multiple times this person have that issue that had that 4 grams, or was it the first time they had 4 grams? I mean, it's kind of like you're asking 4 grams versus 200 grams, and that's a lot.
Mhm.
And then, but you're going 4 grams, so I guess maybe it's the rules, maybe it's the type of drug, I don't know. But yeah, I'm kind of,
The entire measurement of 4 grams, 200 grams, that's all made by the village standard. That's
Okay.
not something that we get to decide here at the district. German 14.
The evaluation of 4 to 200, is that based on distribution or amount that you would have to resell
So it's
or
on,
for personal use?
sorry, it's on aggregate weight. So when I say 4 grams, it means, again, in the scenario,
stop asking questions.
come out to 4 grams. Okay. If it's less than that, doesn't meet the proper element.
The element being
The
for
weight.
distribution
No,
or for
just-
personal use?
Just weight at that point. Yeah, so
Okay.
distribution. I
Oh, interesting.
So,
Thank you for the definition.
Thank you.
thank you. So is there anyone here, again, I'll ask the question again. You can say, Daniel, 4 grams. Why are we spending our time on this? I'm sure you guys have better cases to worry about. Please raise your cards. Fair?
No.
Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call out your number, keep your cards up. Call out your
Nobody
number,
asked
call
enough
out your number, you guys.
questions.
Okay,
That's enough.
you're number 1, 4, 10, 12, 29, 33, 41, 46, 45, 48, 50, 52, 54. Moving back around this way, up through number 15.
Well, yeah, I asked about it before, I might as well raise my hand about it.
Juror number 68, juror number 74, and juror number 75. Now I got you. So that's fair. That is something that some people have to do. What I would say is there anyone here hearing that who would say the drugs that I mentioned, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, they should be fully legalized? Is there anyone here with that opinion? Please raise your card. Juror numbers, here, give me 1 second to make sure no other cards get raised. Juror number 50, juror number 61, and anyone else? Oh, sorry. Oh, no, you gotta look around. Juror number 12. Happens more than you think, guys. So, again, everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, specifically in regards to burden of proof, I wanted to give some examples. So, again, not 100%, not all doubt. And give you the definition. Sir, what's your juror number? Juror number 9. Juror number 9, so you go to movies often? Yeah, but you've gone recently? Throw it out last year, 2, couple years? Pre-COVID, that's where I'll take it. So, let's say you're going in to the movie to watch whatever you're gonna watch. Maybe a Marvel movie, I don't know. But when you go in, there's a dark clouds in the sky, right? And it's not raining. Get that feeling that it's about to rain. I've always experienced that. And you go and watch a movie, and about 2 hours later, you come out, and there's a ton of water everywhere. Cars are drenched, ground's drenched. What do you think now? Good rain. Rain. Is there anyone here, you can say answer, yes. Is there anyone here who disagree with it? Now, man, you were shaking your head, so sorry, easy target. What's your number, ma'am? You're number 33. You can stand up again. Would it be possible if I told you that the mayor of San Antonio got a fire truck, a bunch of firefighters together, hooked up the hose, and they started spraying that parking lot down?
It would be possible,
Is it reasonable?
not really.
You think that there'll probably be some hearings on that, you think something's probably happening? And please, I'm not sure.
What about the irrigation system?
Possibly, again, possible, but is it easy? Irrigation without more evidence? Again, all you have is, it's raining, the clouds in the sky, it felt like it.
Okay, there's clouds in the sky. I'm gonna sit back.
So again, I would say rain specifically, maybe not, but a weather pattern, whether that's precipitation or like condensation, temperature that.
Yeah, that happens too.
The temperature of the ground, but something like that, yes.
You got a point.
So again, I kind of wanted to highlight really quickly back on that, is that evil not always possible. One other thing I wanted to mention, is there anyone here who's a Spurs fan? Yeah, I know, everybody, I heard like, yes. Ma'am, I saw you in your car, you're number 21.
Yeah, I am a Spurs fan.
I watched in 2014 when the Spurs played in the NBA finals.
Yes.
Is there anyone here who disbelieves it? Oh, thank you.
I think she was doing this and
So is there anyone here who thinks, who said she watched the finals? Is there anyone here who thinks she did? Ma'am, how many points did Tim Duncan score in game 5 of the 2014 NBA finals?
I don't remember what I wore yesterday.
But memory was working like that. Nobody doubts that she watched it, but if I asked you to go into that specific little pinpoint thing, I imagine most people aren't. I love basketball. So again, memories can kind of play a role into things. Is there anyone here who's had a negative experience with law? If so, please raise your card. I am gonna ask some questions about that. Okay. You're number 3.
I was heading home real like from college complex and my parents with the family was not in great health and there was a spot with a speed limit change, like it was like drop 10 miles an hour and went right back up like 50 feet later. And they stopped me for I believe 2 over at 55. And we're unwilling to consider that whatsoever. That was good. Kind of like that.
But that's very good. You wrote. Would that experience make you be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case for testimony and all? Okay. You're gonna hear me out something like that. Who else had to talk about? Sorry. You're number 4.
2 different things. One, my dad used to be a campus cop when he worked on base. I have issues with that. I was followed by a cop once because I was driving, and I know sound weird, but I was driving back from the Strawberry Festival.
Mhm.
I was driving a very old Buick. And cop was just following me, like I was very close. And as soon as he got close enough to see me, then he turned around. That is a very heavy Mexican community. And I know they profile out there. And I felt like I was driving a car that they typically would drive. I had 31 in my car. And it's just, they just make me very close to the point.
And would those experiences make you be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case?
It would really depend. I'm very iffy with them.
And I understand that answer. I will say that's difficult because here you really need yes or no answers. It's kind of like pregnancy. That's kind of one of those things. So I'll ask, would you be unable to be fair and unbiased?
I will try to do my best.
Who else had to talk about? You're number 4.
So again, I guess what I'm just. I mean,
Okay, I'm sorry, just 1 second. Court reporter is having a hard time hearing. And the way that I know she is having a hard time is because what she's typing is moving slower in the system that I can see. So if everyone can make sure you keep your voice up and not block the jurors from speaking. All right, you may proceed.
So for the most part, any incident I've ever had has not been like outlandish or crazy. But I've gone from like taking a rap from a friend who was here from school from Thailand, and he was on a probationary period, and he had a little cigarette one hitter, and then I took the reps for it, and so that's one example versus others.
Would those experiences make you be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case? When it concerns the testimony of the police officer?
No, towards the testimony of a police officer, I would show judgment just because of my previous history.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? Juror number 14.
Now that I've heard the way you're asking the question, it wouldn't add that way. I just remember an occasion when I was in the Army, I was platoon leader. Broke up a bar fight and the MPs took the opportunity to beat the living hell out of me. That's the way the Army was in the 70s, and I really didn't like cops for a long time. I wasn't able to box for 4 weeks because I got hit so many times in the head. So it really pissed me off, excuse my language. Okay, it cost me a lot of money.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I like cops, no problem.
Okay, so you think you can be
Oh,
fair
yeah.
and unbiased?
No problem.
Thank you, sir. Juror number 42.
I was coming home from a nightclub years ago. I was in the fast lane doing the speed limit, light to no traffic. SAPD pulled up behind me, flashed the lights, so I pulled over. He said, number one, obviously you need to be going faster than the speed limit in the fast lane. So he's basically telling me to break the law, even though it's light to no traffic. He turned around, in other words, I had my fog lights on, they were facing down, but he turned around and said he would rip those lights off my truck if he wasn't such a nice guy. So I don't know if he was having a bad night or not, but yeah, their demeanor is definitely a factor in how things play out, it seems like.
So do you think that experience would make you be unable to be fair and
It,
unbiased?
it probably depends upon the officer and how, how their demeanor is, but yeah, I mean, yes, I would say you probably wouldn't, you could probably listen to what they say and you could be fair about it, but it does weigh out sometimes how they do act.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it's obvious that the demeanor of the officer is unrealistic, and like, let's say he's right here, right, and he's having a bad day right now. And then I hear some testimony, then would it be unjust for me to make an judgment call based on that?
So you are all mixers in here, well, of course, you guys are all the members of court group. Trying to get to examine how someone testifies and how their demeanor is. Has everyone here had experience judging someone's credibility?
Yeah.
We do it every single day. These people ask us to believe them, we have to rely on other people. Happens all the time. You guys are the ones that judge that, as the jury who sit on the panel. Now, juror number 5. Are you always 100% correct in making that judgment call? Not really. Is there anyone here who would say they're 100% correct all the time? There. Now, I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna ask this out loud, but more of a rhetorical, is there anyone who's ever been with this on the stand? Okay, all right, Juror number, what's your number, sir? Juror number 9. Were you nervous when you were at the stand? First time I did, yes. And did you think that since you were nervous, you feel certain way? You like public speaking?
I don't mind it now, no.
But at the
I
time,
did, first time I testified, I was nervous, I was shaking. I was looking.
Thank you. Juror number 13.
Yes, sir. In the Army as an officer, platoon leader, company commander, battalion executive officer, we have what's called the Article 15 process. Court marshals, I was witness several different times.
And
My responsibility as the commander to witness as to the stature or the attitude of the trooper or past indiscretions, things like that. So that was a regular thing in the Army.
And were you nervous whenever you took the stand?
First couple times, I didn't feel like I had everything in order, and I over and over and over again before the trial. Later on, I learned how to do the research and pretty much had my act together better. And I got in front of, because you're testifying against in front of a staff judge, a judge advocate, and you have to have your act together. They'll eat your lunch or they'll cost you the rank.
And do you think that all those thoughts of nervousness and all the other things that were going in your head, do you think that affected your behavior on the stand?
Early in my career, but after a while, no. they're prepared for that, your first time.
But it can happen.
Yes, it can happen.
So, again, you guys are the judges of credibility, so being up there, I'm in the name. So, one other thing I wanted to touch on, is there anyone here who's ever had their friends, family, themselves, anyone who's ever had or been charged with possession of drugs? Please raise your hand. Here, I'm gonna just call out. Okay?
Can you say that again?
Anyone here who's ever been charged with, or they have family, friends, someone they know, charged with possession of drugs? Okay, I'm just gonna call out the numbers. I might ask you guys to raise them again, because I'm gonna ask you guys that, okay? You're number 1, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 20, 21, 29, 33, 38, 41, 45, 46, 50, 51, 52, 54, 57, 58, 61, 64, 65, 66, 67. Don't think I'm missing. So I'm gonna try to go through again. I know I had you guys drop all your cards, so you're number 1. Can I ask you about it? What happened?
In some of them, never that have previous experiences with drugs and.
And do you think that those experiences leave you unable to be fair and unbiased in this case? Okay. Who else have their cards up? Sorry, guys, I don't have that. You're number 4.
And 2 cousins that have problems with them, one of them is current.
Do you think that that experience with your cousins, do you think that that would leave you unable to be fair and unbiased in this case? Well, sorry, I kind of have to, don't have the greatest number of people, but you're number 8. You please explain.
My brother. is currently trusted.
And would that experience with your brother lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case? And
My husband, who is a police officer, separated, but he is technically still my husband. 14 years, as he's a sergeant now. But then I have my family side in, whereas my brother who's in the situation of the opposite, so. In the between moment there.
it's difficult, man. It's really asking yes or no. Juror number 9.
Cousin, who did, well over 20 years in Illinois for narcotics. My nephew, he recently released in different county. And a neighbor, when I was in the military, I was a special agent for the Air Force. And my neighbor, young couple, had a kid. My kid played with their kids, same age, and found out he was using and selling. And I happened to be the leader of the criminal investigation division, and that was fun. So, I mean, I had a relationship with him, his wife. I mean, they were younger than us, but my wife got along well with them, and that's the extent.
Do you think that that experience would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this?
I don't think so.
Juror number 10.
My boyfriend's little brother got caught with weed at school, so he has a pending felony. Minor. And it would not be.
Sorry, I didn't do that.
Would not
Sorry,
make her bias.
It would not make her biased.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Juror number 11.
My brother time for possession of basement and then he ended up dying of a bunch of those. And enemies who had issues with substance abuse and also legal and DUI. And then my neighbor 4 years ago served time in prison for drugs, possession, guns.
Do you think that those experiences would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case?
Fair and unbiased, very definitely. Biased, I mean, guilty is guilty, you know, you are guilty, you're guilty. It's judgment.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? I know there's a lot of parts of the race. You're number 15.
Okay, so my age is gonna be showing. So it was like late eighties. I was in the military. So we had 2 maintenance squads. The other girl that was in the same career field as I was. She went AWOL the whole 9 yards. She pretty much, the only way you knew what she did was figure out what she didn't do in the UCMJ. That was the only way you know what she did. But yes, she got busted for drugs and everything else like that. Committed fraud the whole 9 yards. And I was her guard at Laughlin when I was stationed there.
And do you think that that experience would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case?
I can be fair and unbiased.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Anyone else? You're number 20.
I have a 27-year-old son right now that's got caught with a small amount of marijuana, so he's going through that process right now.
And do you think that that experience with your son could lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case? Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'm sorry. The court reporter is not hearing, so if everybody can keep your voice up, because if she doesn't hear, then that means it did not happen.
Sorry.
Right, so what was that answer?
No.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You're number 41.
Two things, my brother was arrested for possession. And,
And if you could speak up, sir.
my brother was arrested for possession of marijuana, 4 ounces or so. And, it was thrown out he was taken in. And also, years ago in college, I had a friend who dealt some of them narcotic drugs. I don't know, it was more than 4 grams.
And do you think that those experiences would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case?
You know, not really. Like one said, he was guilty or not.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? You're number 46.
I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, so I know a lot of people who've been arrested and have done time.
And do you think that those experiences would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case?
Probably not. I can't be 100%, but probably not.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? You're number 45.
So I had experience with my brother and also one of my cousins who were put in jail due to drug possession. And so I would probably have a somewhat biased opinion about certain.
And I know, I understand probably is probably the answer, but.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You're number 50.
Yeah, I had a friend that was charged back in 2007 for possession when he went to go pick up one of his friends that held him for a ride. His friend had 2 ounces of weed in his backpack that he didn't know was in his backpack.
5 minutes.
Got pulled over. His friend didn't know that the weed was in his friend's backpack. How could he have known that? And they charged both of them with possession.
And do you think that that experience would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case?
I would not be able to be fair and biased in this.
You're number 58.
I have a brother that was on parole, violated parole, spent time in the penitentiary for possession. I have a son that had a misdemeanor from that. So would I be fair and unbiased in this case? Possibly, yes.
What was the answer? We can be fair.
You're number 57.
Friends and have friends and family that have been put in those situations.
And do you think that those experiences would lead you to be unable to be fair and unbiased in this case? No?
No.
Thank you. Juror number 61.
A family member as a minor, was charged with possession and intent to distribute. It would not make me unbiased. It would not make me biased.
Thank you, ma'am. Juror number 19.
As a nurse, I'm dealing with these issues every day that I go to work. At least one of my patients is there for overdose. I also have to deal with it as a supervisor with coworkers. Could I be fair? Yes. Am I unbiased? Absolutely not. Definitely unbiased.
So I know that other people have the cards raised and I understand running out of time on a time. Is there anyone who thinks, Daniel, there's a question you should have? Is there anyone here with that thought?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but my little brother's school is calling.
I'm sorry.
She said someone's calling her. She asked if she could step out.
It's important.
All right, what's your number?
59.
I'm sorry.
59.
Yes, you can step out to answer the call.
Is there anyone here who's thinking, Daniel, I'm surprised you haven't asked this question? Anyone here with thoughts like that? It's just gonna be the last time that I get the chance to speak to you guys directly. Okay? Juror number 14.
I want to know what the drug in question is. I mean, you've got hash, marijuana, cocaine, heroin. My wife's high school principal at Madison High School, and every night I hear about the drugs they bust. And every night 4 weeks ago, we're laying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. One of her kids OD'd. The mother called us because my wife was helping this kid get into ACE Academy, which is a recovery school. I deal with this on the outside, watching my wife sit and cry and shake and have all these feelings. And I go to the funerals and I see this stuff. And I don't think I could be biased at all. And I saw enough of it when I was in the military. I did drug interdiction work in Blackwater, in Central America, Panama, Honduras, Nicaragua, all over, and then again in Europe. drug interdiction.
Sir, with
I don't agree
regards,
with anybody transporting. any
sir,
drugs.
with regards to this case and what we're here for, the only way you'll know what this case is about
Yes, ma'am.
is if you're on the jury.
Yes, ma'am. It's not curiosity. It's, I just can't see anybody trafficking any type of drug, and anything over that measurement can't be for personal use. That's my opinion.
Everyone, I appreciate your help here again. This is something I know it's been comfortable to answer. So I can.
Thank you. Can I have parties approach? No.
I am, Judge. Is that loud enough? All right, it's 2:10 and you're going, God, now we gotta listen to the defense. We have to listen to the judge and the state.
Hang
Hang with me, not real boring. You know, the judge said something extremely interesting, and it's not interesting, it's so important. Jury duty, I've been doing this a long time. That's why I'm white, I'm bald. White beard, bald head. Let me tell you something. I've never, ever talked to a jury after a trial that not one of them has ever said, I hated it. Every person has always said, you know, that was interesting and I'm glad I did it. But the more important thing is this. I'm here to tell you right now, this is an extremely important case. Not just for the judge, not just for Mr. Jones, but for all of us, and for all of you too. And the reason I say that is simply this. I'm going to talk to you about some legalese, but I'm going to ask you to do something as I'm doing that. I want you to think about what I'm talking to you about as if you, your loved one, your son or daughter is the one sitting next to me. Thomas Jefferson said, I consider trial by jury as the only anchor yet devised by man by which the government can be held to the principles of its constitution. Let me ask you this question. Who here, as a citizen of Texas, US, feel like we are losing our rights more and more every day? Doesn't matter if it's a Republican doing it or a Democrat doing it. Listen, I fight every day for this stuff. And I feel the same way. Those rights are being watered down for reasons I can't personally tell you. That's the beautiful thing about a jury trial. Because the only people that can hold our rights sacrosanct or water them down is the 12 of you. You get to decide how much weight I'm going to give to the presumption of innocence. You get to decide how much weight I give to what's beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm going to talk about beyond a reasonable doubt in a minute, but I want you to think about that as if you were the one or your family member was the one that is sitting next to me. Because it's not, hey, I got to get home to dinner. Or, you know what, I got a trip coming up. Now, we're going to go over that in a minute. But if you are chosen, all I'm asking is that. Now, I don't know you all and you don't know me. And I'm here to tell you right now, I will never change any of y'all's minds going forward right now. I can't. You know why? Because we all came from different parents, different backgrounds. We all have our own beliefs and biases. And I hate the term, can you be fair and unbiased? Because I'm telling you right now, all of us have biases. Okay. And if I was to ask you, can you be fair? Everybody's going to sit there and say, well, yeah, because I'm a fair person, right? But that's not the question. The question isn't, can I be fair? Because we're all fair people. Is this the right case for me? Right? Because as number 50, it said, hey, listen, issues with drugs and stuff before, I'd be a good juror, but maybe not on a drug case, right? Because it's our history that we've had with these things. So I'm asking you right now, right off the bat, because we know this case deals with drugs, and I'm going to loop it with the district attorney here. Look it. I think I could be fair or whatever. The only question is simply this. You know what? Now that I know it's doing a bit dealing with drugs and the history I have with drugs, family members, friends, is this the right case for me where I'm going to give more weight to the state? I'm going to water down that presumption of innocence or beyond reasonable doubt. Then if it wasn't a drug case, does anybody feel that way?
These questions, please.
Well, that's a good question. I can remember the way it said. So the bottom line is this. There was a laundry list of all of you that said, hey, I've had experiences or my family members have had experiences with drugs. And then the question was, having that experience, can you be fair and unbiased? Right? So to get right to your question about what is a question, because of that experience that you've had dealing with drugs or your friends or family members dealing with drugs, the question then becomes this. Listen, I told this district attorney that I could be fair, but I heard a lot of probablys and but. The bottom line is this. I would be a fair juror, just not really on a drug case, right? Put me on a good old arson case. Do something else because I know deep down, because of what my past has done, I cannot really hold the state to the burden, or you know what? Just the opposite. I like defenses because I don't like police, right? Because we have to come into these trials neutral. And I know we don't, but that's the question. So having it said that way, like, I can't, you know, now that you've explained to me that this drug case is not the right case for me because I am biased and I cannot be fair. My judgment in this case will be clouded. Does anybody feel that?
if you were placed on this jury, would you be able to listen to whatever evidence was presented and base whatever decision you come to based upon the evidence that you hear? That's the question. Because a lot of us come into a courtroom with our own experiences, maybe our own biases about different things. That's why they say, maybe if your mother was on trial, you shouldn't be on a jury, where your mother's the defendant, right? Or your mother's the accused. So the question is whether or not, if you were placed on this jury trial, you'll be able to base your decision of guilty, not guilty, or whatever it may be, based upon the evidence that you hear that's presented to you. That's the question. Counsel, you may continue and add to that if you wish.
I don't need that. I don't need that. You heard what the judge said, coupled with what I said. Hard.
And
Yeah, can you stay neutral or will you be influenced by your own biases and prejudice? Again, we could say, I'm gonna only listen. And keep this in mind too. You saw me objecting a minute ago. All the law is gonna come from the judge, okay? Now, we called the 12 of you judges also because you're judges of the facts and of credibility. She's the judge of the law. Okay, so that'll all be explained to you in what we call a jury charge at the end of this case. So what she is asking is, here's the law, this is my notes, but here's the law of the case. You've heard all the evidence. Now, can I look at that fairly and objectively, put my biases and prejudices aside and render a just verdict based on just that?
Yes, I have a question.
Well, I thought I did good.
Okay. My question is this, are we just looking at the drugs that are involved? That this is a case based on drugs, or I may have other difficulties based on previous knowledge that I have, but it doesn't have to do with drugs.
You're allowed as a juror to bring your own experiences into the jury room. You just can't share them with the other jurors.
Okay, good.
But
Okay.
as the court already showed, the state already said, this is the state of Texas, Mr. Melvin Jones, and the charge is 400 to 200 grams. So we know we're dealing with a drug case.
Okay.
Now, do we know they're drugs yet? No, there's been no evidence of it. That's just the indictment. That's what it says. Do we know if Mr. Jones, do we know if drugs are found, where were they found? We don't know any of that stuff.
Okay.
But we know, I'm just asking.
So I could say I will be unbiased based on the drug. There's something else that I might not be able to separate.
What is that?
Can I talk to you?
We'll take that after.
Okay.
Now, do I get those numbers?
I could be impartial.
Just to confirm, raised card is yes, I can stay unbiased, and that should be
No.
a trial committee for.
A raised card is,
Take that.
yeah, take me out because I cannot be fair.
What was that?
The raised card says this, based on what you know in the bias and prejudice, I can, even if the law says you have to, it's okay. I cannot follow the law because of my own history or whatever, for whatever reason. I can't, in my heart, follow that law.
Okay.
Number one. Number two. Number four. Number 8. Right? Number 14. Number 43. Number 50. Number 58. Number 65. 67 and 71. And I'm not trying to, well, that's a misstatement. I am trying to pigeon you guys, okay? Simply because you're talking in a bunch of strangers, except for the hands and the knees, and that's pretty fun. But having said that, it's hard to open up, and I get that. We're talking about a bunch of strangers. But thank you for those fair answers. Okay. So these are some of the legal concepts that are hard, and I'm not going to change your mind, but this is our law. As the judge pointed out, at the end of that jury charge, the jury gets to say, we, the jury, find the defendant either not guilty or guilty. What word am I not using?
Innocent,
Who said that?
innocent.
Number 33, innocent. Now, why is that?
Seemed innocent until guilty.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can't hear.
We,
Number 48,
the assumption of innocence until guilty, proven guilty.
presumption of innocence. That's part of it. Number 66,
Whether beyond a reasonable doubt.
okay, number 63,
Innocence, assume that, the charge has been dropped.
the reason we have that in our Constitution of what's going on is simply this. The state of Texas has the burden of proof. As Daniel said. You in your heart of hearts could say, clearly, that person did it, he's not innocent. Right? But if the state of Texas fails in their obligation and their duty to prove any of those elements, even if you say, by golly, I feel he did it, they didn't prove each and one of those elements, the law says you have to say not guilty. So innocence, as horrible as it sounds, has nothing to do with the jury trial. It's did they prove each and every element or not? You may believe he did it, but if they didn't do that, can't do it. That's a hard concept, right? Does anybody disagree with that? Number 63.
I would say that, if, the offender as it's beyond in the society, none of us here would say they've never heard about ethnic expression of blood. So for the offender, they intentionally carried out, even if, they are disabled, but if they were aware, they heard us, carrying that position, they be arrested. Not being, guilty, but will be arrested. I think that would be, that would be the beginning of everything. So I would say that just having the intent and getting that, it's already, getting yourself in trouble.
Okay, so what you're saying is as long as you believe that, whether the government went through all the steps and did what the law says you have to do, such as proving up it happened in Bear County, but they proved up every other element, you would sit there and say, that's close enough for me. That's good enough for me.
I would say, if the defender, if they recognize that they were carrying that, it's they already in the spectrum of possession, unfortunately. That's what I was saying.
Okay, so I got to pin you down here. So what you're saying is because we have a possession case here, your position is Mr. Jones has already done something wrong and that's why he's sitting here.
Well, here's what I'm saying. If they hadn't, carried out, there wouldn't be, even it's charge. So in my experience, like it also, the reason why I don't have friends is that the majority of people, and I'm not blaming people that smoke. I have people that I hang out with, but I can't keep on dating because that usually happens. If you're riding on my car or riding on their car, they have something, I'll be arrested. So if someone, I would just say, man, he doesn't know that's the question. So I would say, if we are living in a society and we are all aware that if you are being caught intentionally or non-intentionally possession of drugs,
you will be for security. Therefore, you need to be in custody. But doesn't mean that you're guilty or not guilty, but you're trying to succeed. That's my opinion. Okay, did everybody hear him?
Yes.
Does anybody else agree with that?
I do.
Number 14,
Yes,
number 6.
very well spoken.
Number 68, number 75. Thanks. Somebody just mentioned presumption of innocence too. What presumption of innocence is simply this. Presumption of innocence belongs to all of us. And it's like a cloak that sits upon the shoulders of any of us that have been arrested. And that presumption of innocence stays with that individual up and until the time the jury decides guilty. Another way to say it is this. When you all walked in, 75 of you, you looked around the courtroom, right? And clearly you said, the person in the black robe has got to be the judge. You probably looked over at this table and probably thought they're the prosecutors. You looked over here and said, hey, that's a good looking guy, but he's probably the defense attorney. His assistant. How many sat there and said when they came in, I wonder what he did? Anybody think that way? It's a natural reaction. It's a natural reaction, right? I wonder what he did. That's why I said I can't change your mind. But our law is simply this. He did nothing. He came in with the presumption of innocence. He's done nothing. Okay. He's been accused of something, but he's done nothing up until they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he had done something. So another way to put it is this. When the state is putting on evidence up here on the stand, the presumption of innocence dictates this. You look at that evidence through the eyes of the presumption of innocence, not the presumption of guilt. I have grandchildren. Now that's hard to believe, but I love them. And let me tell you why I love them. Those guys love asking questions. They won't shut the hell up half the time, but they're just asking questions. And I always sit there and say, why isn't society more like that? The curiosity, the question, right? Because what is the most deadly thing in a trial? This is going to be a hard one. This is kind of like a trick question. What do you think when we're listening to evidence and we're here for beyond a reasonable doubt? What do you think is the most deadly part of that evidence? I'm just going to say assumptions.
Question that isn't asked.
Question has been asked, but assumptions, right? When the state is proving up their case, to fill in the blanks, they will get up and it's usually use your common sense. That's another word for make the assumption with me. Again, we're here in a court of law. I can use my common sense, but it's assumptions, right? Let me give you an example. My wife and I went to, she did the mother-daughter try thing, whatever, at the Hill Country Marriott this past weekend. It was canceled because of the rain, but we decided we'd still spend the night. So what I did is I was carrying our bags to the front, and the young man at the front says, hey, can I help you with your bag? And it struck me. Because I was carrying the bag, what was his assumption? It's my bag, right? That's just an assumption. Because I'm carrying it, it's my bag. It was my wife's bag, right? But that's an assumption. Just because I'm carrying something doesn't mean it's yours, right? Just because I'm carrying it doesn't mean I know what's inside of it. There's an assumption there that you do, right?
Number 63.
Can you hand me your pen, please?
There it is.
Well, it's next to you. Within reaching distance. I saw it next to you. It's your pen, right?
I'll take it. You can always use another one.
What did I just do?
Assuming.
Assume. And the reason is because we're talking about possession, mere presence at the scene of a crime is not enough. If you notice when he gave us hypotheticals, this is so key. Talked about possession, he held this up. And the next trick was he put this on top of it and said, did I intentionally or knowingly pick this up also, right? What if law says all his hypotheticals dealt with, I knew it was there, I knew what I was picking up, I see what's going on. Right? We can't assume those things. You got to prove up through circumstantial evidence that you knew what you were picking up. You knew that the pen was there. You had knowledge of where you're at, because mere presence, even if it's in reaching distance, is not enough. Because we talked about if you're in the car with your friends, what if there's more than one person in the car? Right? Now we're assuming, hey, because it's next to somebody, it's yours. But there's other people there within reaching distance also. You gave the hypothetical, or you asked that question, hey, is there more to it than just the rain outside? He says, well, the clouds also. All right? Now we got things that are start adding up to why it rained. So the key is this. I'm here for assumption. We're not here for maybes, could have, would have, or clearly we're here for beyond a reasonable doubt. So let me tell you what beyond a reasonable doubt means to me. It's a bedrock. God, I love the law. About 6 years ago, my wife went for her annual mammogram. The doctor at that point in time found a bunch of calcium deposits. The doctor says, don't worry about it. It's just calcium deposits. Now, this guy with all his training and his knowledge and expertise told me that. Told my wife that. My wife says, I'm good. But me being a lawyer and me being beyond a reasonable doubt said, something's not right. So I made her go to another doctor. Same thing. It's just calcium deposits. Honey, she's telling me, don't worry about it. Well, what does honey do?
The third.
Go to doctor number 3. And thank God I did, because now we're 5 years cancer free. So, point is this. That's what beyond a reasonable doubt means. That's our bedrock. We're a society that live in shortcuts. Close enough is good enough. I don't want a constitution to become that. Does anybody believe what I believe? Okay. I'm going to wrap this up because I think we covered just about everything I need to cover with a couple of things here. What is evidence? Evidence comes from the stand and is through either testimony or oral testimony, right? You all get to judge the credibility of that testimony. Evidence is also physical, right? You mentioned fingerprints, DNA. These are things that can corroborate what is the belief of law enforcement or somebody's story, right? What is not evidence is a plea for law enforcement. Okay, so when we sit there and say we have to get drugs off the streets, help clean up society, help keep San Antonio safe, that's not evidence. Does everybody understand that? Okay, now I've been looking at some of you all's cards here. So I'm gonna go through them really quick. So I get to know a little bit about you. Highlighting. Number 7. You've been on a criminal trial before? Okay, and how long ago was that? Was it here in Bear County? Did the judge or jury assess punishment? The judge did? And number 8, you had mentioned you're separated? Your spouse is an officer? Knowing that he's an officer, would you give more credence to a police officer's testimony than a lay witness?
You can't hear. That's where I keep saying I'm kind of back and forth. I'm on the good side of the law, but then I have that one on the bad side of, so I'm in between that.
You've been a witness in criminal trials before?
Yes, sir.
And that's due to your job?
My job, yes, sir.
Oh.
And,
Okay, knowing with your background, do you feel that you would believe more of the state of Texas and their witnesses than listening to any kind of witnesses or evidence on behalf of the defense? Okay, thank you so much. Number 11. You've also been a jury in a criminal trial?
Honestly, you know what? I don't even remember if it was criminal or civil, very honestly, it was like years ago.
You just guessed.
2005. I sort of kinda, I thought it was over there at the one. What was that? It was the courthouse was over.
Municipal court?
No, it wasn't.
Federal.
No, it was on, the one by, commerce and. Yeah, across from UTSA.
So it's been that long ago. You don't remember. Oh.
What is it was from?
Yes.
Right, that's municipal court.
It was something, it was, I don't know, it was more, could have been, like I said, something like that.
Okay, that's fair enough. Number 12. I think we're good there. Number 19. Criminal trial before?
Yes, but before they ever actually brought us in to start anything, we adjudicated. So not really.
Starts a trial.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to hear any evidence, it was just more of a panel like this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Number 14. You know what, I think we got enough on you for that.
Oh, wow.
Number 29. What are you retired from?
From AT&T, and I had a car accident that put me out.
And you've served on a grand jury before?
Yes, sir.
How was that experience?
Very interesting.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Sorry.
Speak up.
very interesting and very, and just, educational.
Did that experience sway you one way or the other as far as being biased or prejudiced in this? So you can be fair. Thank you. Number 30. You're retired also?
Yes,
From what?
U.S. Department of Labor.
How long have you been retired?
13 years.
Good for you.
Congratulations.
I'm still doing it.
And you've been on a criminal trial before?
Yes,
And how long ago was that?
probably about 25 or 30 years ago.
Quite some time. Did that experience, did you like it?
It was interesting in the fact, well, it was a child abuse, but what happened is it never, we never had to do anything as to make a decision because they came forward and settled it down.
Number 33,
Yes,
criminal trial before?
yes, two.
Two?
One was a court martial when I was in the military and the other one was a federal case.
Okay. Thank you so much. Number 42. You're retired?
Yeah.
I want to retire so bad. What do you retire from?
I work in a flower shop.
Oh, great, great. Our judge loves flowers. And you've served on a grand jury also. And how long ago was that?
10 years, but it was in California.
Oh, Cal. Okay, that's. We can do things different. We don't have 3 or 4 week trials here. We're good there, okay? Number 43. You retired? From what?
At least I have no energy.
Okay. Number 41. You put down that you were either a complainant or witness or accused in a criminal matter. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking in the wrong place, sorry. Complainant, witness, or accused in a criminal trial, which one was it? You were accused? And how did that experience, will that affect this case? You don't think, or you don't, it won't, which one is it?
I mean, you always have feelings, I guess, as a result of convictions and stuff like that. But I'm pretty judgmental and stuff. And you're guilty, you're guilty. I mean, according to the law.
Well, okay, when you say you guilty, so I guess the question is what the judge would sit there and say is this. You're gonna get a jury charge, you're gonna follow the law, and that's, you're gonna base, your decision could be based on the law and the fact presented to you. Okay. Yeah, 1 minute, Your Honor. As the state said, we don't get to speak with you all after I say. Is there anything here or any questions that you may have of me that I have not asked or you want to know before? Because once I sit down, we're going to do strikes. And when you're up there, if you become part of the 12, you don't get to raise your card and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell the judge this. So you need to tell me right now. Anything out there from 7?
How many years you been doing this? How many years has he been doing this?
25. Yes, sir.
Just forgot to say to the judge there, my second language is also Spanish, but I understand.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're so shy.
Yeah.
I know that my
Just for purposes of full disclosure, I was a special agent with the Air Force. I was also on the drug enforcement team for 2.5 years. So I just want to make sure that's clear, but I can be. Sure you can.
All the time.
So I want to announce my
Okay.
primary profession, but I do a soccer analysis for the El Salvador national team. So it is my job that as an analyst to separate my bias from me, or my bias from my analysis and sort of analytics or various sort of things. That I think that would be very applicable to this sort of case.
Correct.
I don't had family members who have gotten legally in trouble from like illegal substances. I had like family members who have passed away because of it, who are facing it. That does make you biased, and you know you associate yourself with something either. Has that involved in their lives, or you or no one would do that?
Okay, so we've all been using the term bias, but I guess what I'm trying to say or ask is this. When we say the word biased, explain that to me. In other words, would you be more inclined to agree with the states starting off because it's dealing with drugs, you'd be more biased about listening to the evidence? You'd put more weight on a police officer's testimony. Yeah, that's called judging the credibility of somebody, right? Okay, I get that. But what you had just said, you had people that pass away due to drugs, knowing the evils of drugs. Does that create in your mind, hey, listen, if there's drugs, this ain't the case for me? Okay. I'm doing a really bad job of pinning you down. The bottom line is this: I would hope not using the hopes and stuff like that. I don't want to assume anything. I just want to know from you: can you be fair and impartial to Mr. Jones if you were sitting as one of the 12?
I don't think I can, and I prefer not.
Think or you?
I cannot.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody? I want to thank you. Oh, number 43. Okay. Thank you all so much for giving me your time.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you step outside. And when you step outside, what will end up happening is we'll call you back in. So if any of you need to, if any of you need to use the restroom, the easiest way to find the restroom is find where the stairs are. So you can go on any floor, as long as you're near the stairwell, a restroom is going to be on either side of the stairs. So if there's a long line somewhere, you can just go down another floor, either up a floor. But I'm going to ask you all to be back outside no later than 3:20. So look to your left, look to your right, and make sure that person is behind you. So everyone, if you will leave your expensive cards behind, please. All right, thank you. Oh, you can mute us.
Let's.
You okay? You mad? Okay. Okay.
Today. Is this the one day you had somebody wanted to see you? He was like, oh, he's like, I'm sorry. I was just thinking something else. He's like, yeah, no, not today. He's like, okay.
He's not up tomorrow.
I was like, hey, you
People are off. They get paid time, right?
Is there anything else?
I'm just not thinking the whole thing off the top of my head.
Yeah, she said one.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, okay.
So we have some amount of time. So if you get it to me in the morning and go through all the processes, I will pick this up and then just walk through.
I'm gonna say, well, just. It's like I say, so I watched the driver, both cops and then.
No, so it's the. That's who we're bringing in.
Right.
We're not bringing, we're not playing tomatoes.
Right, it's the same thing.
Right.
Relatively.
They want Nietos, the program for Nieto and Toledo, so we're in the same parts. Hernandez.
That's
Oh, yeah.
It's like.
Yeah, I mean, now she's like, I don't know what she's saying. It's like that. Absolutely.
He walks across the.
That's my memory.
Yeah. That one's a shorter one. That's one.
But you know what? They say if you drink too much, you will.
But I'm
like, I don't want to be that person.
That's it.
Everyone, please be seated.
Not the one that's talking.
The one I'm talking about.
All right, everyone, I want to thank you so much for your service. Jury duty, of course, as you know, is a very serious thing, and I appreciate you all for taking it seriously. I'm going to call the name of the jurors. And once I call your name, I'm going to ask you to take a seat in the box. For everyone else, if your name is not called, of course, you're welcome to come back to see what happens in this trial if you wish to do so. You will need to go back downstairs if you have not already had your parking validated. And to get your parking validated, you just go back to the central jury room to have that validated. You'll be receiving a payment in the mail for your services here today. That will probably come in the mail to you about 2-3 months from now. And you will think, is this real? But then you'll remember the great time you had in the 187th, and you will not want to spin it. You will probably just want to frame it and look at it for memories. There should not be that much laughter for that. So with that being said, I'm going to call the names. And as I call your name, like I said, please take a seat in the box. Enrique Sanchez Parra. Felicia Mercado. Stephanie Alvarado. George Perez. Rosanna Martinez. Lilith Netherly. She was right down the front row. Samuel Klein. Monica Huff. Lori Bowen. Now you'll be able to have a seat instead of standing. Peggy Wise. Dominique Garcia. Yvonne Vise or Vivis. Veronica Eckert. Dominique Martinez. All right, so to the rest of the persons who are here, if you would like, I can have you go back downstairs and you'll be brought back tomorrow for another jury to serve on, or you can be excused. Oh, no, time out. No, absolutely not. You've got to let that marinate. You got to think about it a little bit. But seriously, though, this does count as your service. I don't know if it's raining outside or started to rain, so please be careful when you're driving home or wherever your destination is. And remember, school is in session, so there are school zones out there. Please pay attention to the school zones, because sometimes little children, if you remember when you were a child, you don't follow the rules that your parents have told you about when to cross. All right, so everyone, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
They got my number, good.
Awesome. Well, put the numbers down. Yes. If you want to keep them, and what I'll do is I'll get them from you tomorrow and I can watch them over lunch. All right, everyone, please. I want to make sure I get you all out of here before the 5 o'clock rush for traffic. All right, so you've been selected on this jury. This is how things will proceed. We're going to start tomorrow. Both sides will have a chance to give you opening statements, and then they will proceed with their testimony. The way I like to run a trial is I like for us to end each day by 4:30. That way you won't be caught up in the traffic rush to get out of the building, because if you can imagine, everybody who works here, the jurors park in that parking garage. And when people leave at 5 o'clock, what ends up happening is you're just sitting in the line. You might as well have a book, because everything moves very slow. And I don't like for that to happen. The only reason why, if we don't stop at 4:30, will be because we're in the middle of a witness. And I don't like for us to be in the middle of a witness and maybe somebody doesn't get to cross. So that's the only exception to that. In this courtroom, you're allowed to bring drinks. Just make sure that the cap is on so there won't be any spillage. As you can see, because I have to take allergy medication, I'm supposed to drink a lot of water. So I always have a drink for me. I know the chairs are uncomfortable. We've been trying to work on making those more comfortable. There are pillows in the back. You're more than welcome to bring those pillows out, or if you have a pillow from home that you would like to bring, you're more than welcome to bring that. I don't have any control over the temperature in the courtroom. Sometimes it is cold in here. Sometimes it is very hot. So it is easier to have a jacket, and maybe you can take that off later, because I do not have any jackets or blankets for you if it gets too cold. And I can call them and ask them to do something with the temperature. But 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen. So whatever the temperature is for the day, that's the temperature it usually is. When you come tomorrow at 1:30, you will not report to the courtroom. You're going to report to the jury room. And Deputy Deputy Laura is going to show you where you need to report. So you will not be allowed to have conversations with either the attorneys. The person who will be in charge of you will be Deputy Laura. The other thing I want to talk to you about is publicity. I don't expect there to be much publicity with this case, but if for any reason you were to see something on television, if you hear about anything or see anything on social media, you're to ignore it. Everything that you need to know about this case to make a decision, if you can, is to come from inside this courtroom. Does everyone understand? The other thing, let me see if there's anything. We will start at 1:30. If there is one of you that is missing, we cannot start. For us to start at 1:30, everybody needs to be on time. Now, as I said before, the garage, the people parking the garages, everybody who works in this building, and also jurors. And there are usually about 300 jurors that are called up each day, maybe more. So in order to get a place in the garage or have a 90% chance of getting a place in the garage, it would probably be best for you to show up by 12. We do have a refrigerator and a microwave in the jury room where you're going to be staying. You can either bring food with you, or if you want to come and then walk somewhere to get food, you're more than welcome to do that. Are there any questions? All right, that is the first. We usually have questions. See, I jinxed us. Okay, yes.
For work, do we have something to? Yes.
Deputy Laura will have your information, and then what will end up happening, she'll give you numbers. And if your employer wants to call to make sure you're here, which they should not be doing, but if they do, we will let them know that you are here on a jury. Anyone else? Yes. I always tell everybody I will have an idea of how long a trial will take once they actually start. Because believe it or not, I don't have any more information about this case than you do. So I will be hearing what people believe the facts of this case are along with you. Now, once the state and the defense have started their examinations, if they choose to do examinations, then I will have an idea. So tomorrow I'll be able to let you know before we break for the day how long I anticipate the trial lasting. But what I can tell you is we will not be here on Saturday and Sunday. I don't make jurors come back on Saturday or Sunday. I've heard that some people do, but I don't do that. Any other questions? All right, then, and make sure that you get your parking and everything validated, because the jury room closes by 5. And so sometimes if you leave here a little bit after 5, it's already closed and you can't get it validated. So I always encourage people to get it validated as early as possible, if we're doing a break or something. One other thing before you go, I want to tell you, if you ever need a break, just let us know. You can just do the break sign. Either I will see it or one of the parties will see it, and we'll make sure that you have a break when you need it. Do not be shy in asking for a break, okay? All right, thank you all so much. Everyone, please rise. All right, everyone, please be seated. Can you make sure that door is closed for me? Thank you. Oh, please be seated. All right, so is there anything that you all need me to rule upon? Any evidence that I need to view beforehand?
I was just talking to Dan, Your Honor. I'm gonna be here in the morning.
Mhm.
He's gonna tender what he thinks is going to be admissible or not. He said, any objections I have, we'll talk about it. If he agrees with me, he'll edit it out at that point in time. If not, we can always give it to the court before the 1:30.
Okay. All right. So if you all then can make sure that you're here at 9, so that there's something that I need to see, then that way there won't be a stop and start. Because I want to make sure that the court reporter has her lunch break and everybody has their lunch break. All right, is there
But
anything?
that's our plan. Our plan is, I'll have any objections, whatever, to all their evidence already. So we just keep on flowing.
Okay,
I don't know if he plans on putting any pictures or anything.
okay. Is there anything else from either side?
No, for the picture.
Okay. All right, well, we will see you all tomorrow.